Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Neglected by His Parents and Got Op Gaming System Part 3. Before we start, please go support Kuraka100 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Through Warriors P1, the tanked at the surprised Issei questioned loudly. Issei didn't have much time to think as one of the monster soldiers had blitzed right in front of him. Issei blocked as easily and remarked that the blade is so sharp it could slice him in half if he wasn't careful. I'll have to inspect without the system, said Issei as he looked into the soldier's stats. Race: Undead Blitzer. Rank: Soldier. Level max: Health: 67,000, 67,000. Stamina: No stamina needed. Strength: 13k. Speed: 109k. Endurance: 12k. Defense: 0. Magic power: 9k. Skills ability: Flash moves 10x faster in a single burst, after using it 3 seconds unable to move, sharpen, flight, motion sync. Race: Undead Shielder. Rank: Soldier. Level: Max. Health: 130,000, 131,000. Stamina: No stamina needed. Strength: 71k. Speed: 15k. Endurance: 111k. Defense: 93k. Magic power: 0. Skills ability: Vanguard, redirect 1% of the physical DMG done. Brawler, right judgment, motion sync, able to respond accordingly with team's movement shield. Race: Undead Lancer. Rank: Soldier. Level: Max. Health: 101,000k, 101,000k. Stamina: No stamina needed. Strength: 107k. Speed: 73k. Endurance: 97k. Defense: 29k. Magic power: 11k. Skills ability: Dead Spear, Drain Pierce, Defense Negation, Passive Range Throw, Deception, 50% resistance. Race: Undead Basic. Rank: Soldier. Level: Max. Health: 70,000, 70,000. Stamina: No stamina needed. Strength: 83k. Speed: 60k. Endurance: 70k. Defense: 57k. Magic power: 0. Skills ability: Basic attacks, enhanced reactions, counter attack 15%. Race: Undead Attacker. Rank: Soldier. Level: Max. Health: 130,000, 130,000. Stamina: No stamina needed. Strength: 213k. Speed: 100k. Endurance: 0. Defense: 0. Magic power: 0. Skills ability: Power Slash, Claymore spikes from its body shoot out, rip it saws at whatever it hits. Berserker, Magic Drain, Magic Immunity. Seems that my foes are a little stronger than I have the M credit for. Issei smiled midway through the next attack that had been launched. It didn't take very much for Issei to figure out that the small team worked in perfect unison. Issei had grown tired as the troublesome team kept annoying him. Enough, it's time to die, the sadistically smiling Issei said as he jumped into the air, hurling swarms of magic strikes. Every hit that connected made the field look like a battlefield where it was constantly being bombarded by endless air strikes. Eventually Issei called off the endless hordes of magic attacks. Issei only expected one of the undead to be standing, but to his surprise 3 stood. The spear, the shield and the sword still stand. I guess this'll be better than I thought after all. Issei blitzed to the still standing enemy and began close quarter combat with the 3. Issei was dodging left and right easily, but the teamwork he found himself against was quite great. Issei looked at the tank and did a gesture. Issei had summoned his elite shadow soldiers and made it clear to them that their target was the tank. The croc and the spider were able to hold it off temporarily as they could not die and kept regenerating from Issei's magic, all while those 3 were fighting. Issei was fighting the spear and sword undead. He was dodging for the most part as he was analyzing their movements and skills with the blade spear. So his next attack is aimed at my arm. Issei did a 360 rotation and grabbed the spear user's spear. As he did that, Issei used his free arm to summon Excalibur rapidly, and as he did that he pierced its helmet and skull. The undead had some horsepower left. Issei figured out the spear's weakness, so if I destroy the head of the spear it drops dead instantly, no matter how much horsepower. Is this too same for him? Issei looked and blitzed at the stronger looking undead. Issei blitzed to it and it is surprised the undead was already prepared for that and merely parried his attack. This one's quick, Issei said as the undead soldier maneuvered him into a weird fighting situation. It's trying to get me to use my actual power. I guess it's alright. Issei bleared his magic and shot uncountable amounts of strikes infused with magic. Issei. There, that should do it. Undead. Ah, Issei. The hell it's screaming for? And why is it still standing like my attacks had no effects on him? Thinking, oh that's it, hahaha, magic immunity, I forgot it's a part of its skill set. Issei ferociously started to attack the undead with no end. Every strike was hard and heavy. Within a few minutes the undead was destroyed. So to beat these types, I have to destroy the armor completely. After this Issei finished the rest of the undead off. A while later he'd continue encountering and fighting undead as they flooded the caverns and forest of this strange place. 4 days later, there's no end to them, is there? They keep getting stronger the deeper into the domain I get, the bewildered Issei thought. It wasn't long before Issei was once on the offensive due to the never-ending waves of undead. Issei didn't realize it because of his ego, but he was growing stronger as time passed by. System. WKE. Issei. System. Issei was puzzled as to the random voice he heard. I'm probably losing my mind to this never-ending battlefield. The thought of the system's voice lingered around for what seemed to be an eternity. After 2 more days, Issei got massive leads out of nowhere on the direction he had to go in. Without much thought, Issei blitzed everything on his path. He memorized all the undead attacks patterns. It didn't take him more than 3 days of constant movement and battle to arrive at the gates. This is the place, huh, easy. Issei smirked and walked ever so slowly towards the unfamiliar enemy. Issei. Inspect. Race. Dark warrior, not an undead. Rank. Unholy knight. Level. Max. Health. 400k. 400k. Stamina. No stamina needed. Strength. 213k. Speed. 139k. Endurance. 300k. Defense. 101k. Magic power. 50k. Skills ability. Dark Saber, 2x DMG, negative reactor, effect reduction 30%, last stand. Its power isn't very bad, it'll fall and die like the rest, Issei said as his face went from smiling to serious. Issei. Race. Human. Rank. Boss layer. Level. 112. Health. 800k. 800k. Stamina. Infinite. Strength. 1.2m. Speed. 219k. Endurance. 272k. Defense. 190k. Magic power. 320k. Skills ability. Fusion. Issei. True Warriors P2. Issei. Excalibur rapidly. I summon you to my will, match that of my own. Applies bad omen to rapidly. Dark rapidly, still holy but now also dark. Issei lunged out at insane speed with dark rapidly in hand, actives the Mangekyo Sharingan. Scared? Issei said, not expecting a response. I fear no one, my blade, honor and life spirit belong to the lord of these lands. He sought that you should be killed, he wishes are my will, his word and command are my life, the undead said loudly and with pride. Issei struck the undead while surprised by the response of the undead knight parried the attack of Issei's. Issei, able to see its movements better and without problem, was able to keep himself unharmed. The knight made many attempts to kill him and a single struck but failed. 10 minutes into the fight, the Dark Knight tried once again to lethally strike down Issei, and at this moment Issei counterattacked instead of dodged. He targeted underneath the arm of the knight. As he struck and tore the knight's arm off, Issei immediately rotated the blade and cut the other arm with that. The knight fell onto the ground, and Issei held the point of dark rapidly at the knight's throat. It's a pity you serve another, so strong yet so weak because of your orders. Issei swung the blade, destroying the knight instantly. Now it's time to get going again. Issei continued to move at top speed toward the direction of the powerful being. With due time, Issei made it close to the place of his journey in this weird domain. Issei encountered many undead soldiers along the way, and he tore them down with ease. Dark rapidly could do more damage to undead and things of dark nature. 2 hours later, Issei stood in front of these crooked, worn-out charcoal black gates. Issei walked past the gates, and as he passed by them he had known he was going to fight for his life. As Issei walked further and 12 feet from the gates, Issei felt it 2 miles away. This is it, I fight now. Smiles in a sadistic way as he walked patiently. Issei made it to where he sensed the overwhelmingly strong presence of the monster, one of the corrupt kings. So you've arrived at last, puny creature. Issei turned around happy to hear the being's voice. I did come here to kill you, so naturally I'd arrive. Issei didn't move, nor did the corrupt king. They actually had a chat, not a good one. So you're wanting to say you've been having trouble with my servants? Ha 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 ha, well then I think it's about time, don't you? Issei smirked as the corrupt king said that. Not even less than a second later, the corrupt king made his move. A powerful swing aimed at Issei's head flew so fast that the old Issei wouldn't have been able to react. Issei of course dodged it as he could see and react to the moves of the king. Issei dodged a few more times and few more followed by more dodging. Issei saw an opportunity as the king was changing fighting forms. Issei, with no hesitation and no regard for his own well-being, dashed out full speed. He unleashed a few combos of strikes and magic that all ultimately failed. Issei's goal wasn't to hit him with those attacks, but to have him dodge those attacks and get more confident getting close. You fight horribly, Issei said, taunting the king, as to which the king responded back, why thank you for the compliment, I'll duly make note of that. The king laughed out, and Issei took this chance to swing upwards with dark rapidly. It worked. Issei managed to cut the left eye of the king and graze his cheek. CK means corrupt king. CK. Damn you, you planned to have me drop my guard so that you could take my eye, for that I'll take yours. Issei. Calm yourself, you are a so-called king, your behavior is little more than a child having a tantrum. Wait no, you remind me of the goblins, actually you're beneath them honestly. Smirks. CK. I'll kill you, guards hold him down as I tear him to pieces. Issei. My, looks like I'll call in my own army. Issei called out his shadow army, one with even stronger versions of themselves, because Issei became more powerful. Issei looked around as the now forming Colosseum was being flooded with undead. Issei once again looked at the king and saw his body being covered in armor and his body extending, as if it was changing. Issei. Inspect. Race. Rank. Corrupt king. Level max. Health. Stamina. No stamina needed. Strength. Speed. 340k. Endurance. Defense. Magic power. 1.2 m. Skills ability. Issei. Great, I'm fighting blindly. Issei looked around as the king disappeared and seemingly became air itself. A slight split in the air made Issei jump away. As he did that he rotated around and saw a scythe flying across the place his head was originally at. This is definitely a problem, Issei said out loud as he started to use everything he had in his arsenal. Issei had to deal with an endlessly amount of attacks. Issei dodged and countered when he could, left, right, up, down, he's attacking from all directions simultaneously. Issei scanned around seeing if he could use anything to his advantage. CK. Not so good now right, hahaha. Issei. Oh shut the hell up. CK. And who's going to make me, you? Issei. Yes me, who else, I don't see anyone else around here dumbus. CK. Don't call me a dumbus, you rotten piece of. Issei. Eat some dirt. As the corrupt king rushed at Issei enraged, Issei kicked up some dirt making a dirt screen like a smoke screen. Lots of the dirt happened to enter the king's mouth as he had it open screaming at the top of his lungs. Haha, what it tastes like. Issei said as he kicked the king up into the air. I am not done with you just yet said by Issei as he kicked the king back into the ground. This time Issei also sent an unimaginable amount of magic attacks. Man you look like shy Issei was interrupted as his neck was grabbed. I look like what he hehehehehe the king squeezed Issei's throat very violently. There wasn't much Issei could do, Issei's vision was slowly going blank. It reached the point Issei couldn't even move, normal Issei, not a Kquime Issei. This is it I'm dying, where was I? Where was I before coming into this place? Issei was just about to die till the king spoke out, I'm not done with you, Issei was let go, but immediately his face kicked into the ground repeatedly. Well, how's the taste of dirt? Issei couldn't do much but just lay there and take it all. Why am I on this journey for power? Is it to be the best? To protect someone? As Issei questioned everything he was working for, the image of many darkened outlines appeared in his head, two of them weren't darkened, Kuroka and Kaneko. That's it, I'm fighting for them, I can't give up as Issei was being violently kicked into the ground even further, he slowly started rising, even while being kicked. The hell? You can still move. Ha color me impressed, looks like our fun isn't over. The king was punched faster than he could even think. Issei's body radiated with a black and white aura. CK. What's with the surroundings, they've lost all color, they're black and white. Issei. CK. Hey you say something. Issei appeared behind the king instantly, where did he go? The king felt a sharp sensation in his chest, he looked down and was horrified as he did. You stabbed me, when? Issei. Coldest low-tone voice shut up and die already. CK. But when? When did my body feels limp, what did you do to me? Issei. It's called bad omen, not that it matters much anyways, since you're going to die right now. CK. Wait how about we work this OU? With one swift move, the king's head was no longer connected to the main body. Name? Issei Hyoudou. Race? Who unknown. Rank? Dark Champion. Level 150. Health? 407.3k, 1.9 m. Stamina? Infinite. Strength? 2.5 m. Speed? 700k. Endurance? 1 m. Defense? 1.5 m. Magic power? 3.42 m. Issei's power increased as he kept fighting the monsters down their author. My head spinning all over the place, coughs blood it hurt so bad Issei looked around frantically, his vision started to darken slowly. A few seconds later his vision was overtaken by darkness. Issei closed his eyes and reopened them mere seconds later. After Issei opened them, he was shocked. I'm back. Issei asked out loud as he stood in the dark streets holding bags full of clothing. System. You've been here all this time, however you did space out for approximately 0.973 milliseconds. Issei. What are my stats? System. Your stats are as followed. Name. Issei Hyoudou. Race. Human. Rank. Dark Champion. Level 150. Health. 407.3k, 1.9 m. Stamina. Infinite. Strength. 2.5 m. Speed. 700k. Endurance. 1 m. Defense. 1.5 m. Magic power. 3.42 Issei. I'm stronger, then that wasn't a dream. System. Issei, you are as strong as you've always been. In a separate part of his mind where the system can't access. Issei. Even the system doesn't know what happened, something's off, then what happened there wasn't a dream but a change in time. No, reality. That isn't it, I'll think about this some other time, I'm tired. Hey, how about we head home? Issei asked the system, my home is in here you idiot. Fine then how about I head home jokingly said. Issei continued on his way home. R18 glad to be home. After Issei had made it to the door of the house, he noticed he was having trouble opening the door. It wasn't that he couldn't open it physically, it's just he didn't know what to do after he did. He's been in an environment where he's had to fight so much non-stop, he wasn't sure, and having second thoughts he still decided to open the door. Kuroka. Girls. Issei called out, he could sense the presence of the girls in the house. Issei, knowing each part of this house, quickly determined 3 girls were in the bathtub and 2 others were in his room. He knew who was who and still went to the door of the bathroom and placed down the bags of clothing. He then moved into his room and as he walked in he was surprised to see Kuroka and Hyuna naked. Kuroka was fondling Hyuna's chest with no end, she let out faint moans as Kuroka had her way with her. It's a bit too sudden, slow down, Hyuna said this, and Kuroka's response was definitely a part of her character. That's so. Well, aren't you trying to sleep with my lovey-dovey Issei? If so you should be able to hold this at the very least, Hyuna questioned Kuroka's words while getting turned on even more. Kuroka smirked with many thoughts in mind and just as she did so, she noticed Issei standing there. Well, if I said this was nothing compared to what Issei could do, would you believe me? Hyuna didn't respond instantly, but eventually, she did. I don't know, I haven't done a W with him. Oh. Is that so? It's painstakingly obvious to me you have no experience in this stuff, perhaps it's your first time feeling this sort of thing. Kuroka said as she teased Hyuna even more. Kuroka started to run her finger on Hyuna's back as Hyuna was posed like a dog on all 4. Kuroka pushed Hyuna down with her weight and began to slowly signal Issei to come closer. Hyuna, I have a question, Kuroka asked in a teasing full voice. Do you want to do it with Issei? Hyuna was hesitant to answer Kuroka at first, but she quickly gave in and answered her yes. Please stop making me feel so sensitive, Hyuna pleaded. And if he was here right now? Would you want it then? Kuroka asked the desperate Hyuna. Yes, I want Issei inside of me. I want to produce and carry his litter, so yes I'd want him inside me, Hyuna said loudly as she snapped out. Well, what are you waiting for? You heard her Issei, Kuroka said very delightedly. Issei began to take his clothing off as Kuroka turned the bright red Hyuna around on her back. Ready? Asked Kuroka. Hyuna was far too embarrassed to say anything and just went with it. Position. Penetration plus stimulation. Issei climbed on the bed and from there he started to slowly insert his manhood into Hyuna as he stared at Kuroka's back. Hyuna was beneath Kuroka and Kuroka was on top of her on all 4. Hyuna felt Issei slowly enter her. Congrats, you're now a woman fufufu, Kuroka said in a teasing manner. Issei asked Hyuna if she was alright, she didn't answer but tightened her grip over Issei's pool stick. Issei in response started thrusting as she kept accepting it into her. Kuroka smiled and looked at Hyuna, her eyes were closed. Kuroka saw this and took it upon herself to mess around with her even more. I'm a swift motion, Kuroka pressed her lips against Hyuna's lips. When Hyuna felt Kuroka's soft lips sink into her own, she opened her eyes quickly. Kuroka was blushing not out of embarrassment but of a burning passion to devour her. All while Kuroka started having her fun with Hyuna, Issei was looking directly at Kuroka's pussy. Since Kuroka and Hyuna were like sandwiches at the moment, Issei took this chance to mess around with Kuroka. Issei inserted his tongue into Kuroka's pussy. Ha, Kuroka said in surprise as intensely ate her out. Kuroka smiled and continued to tease Hyuna. As seconds passed, Hyuna very slowly started to loosen her tight grip, relaxing over Issei's dick. Hey Hyuna, you're not in any pain anymore are you? I can tell by your face. You're feeling good aren't you? Issei love, go harder will you? Issei without thinking it though just started to thrust even harder and faster. Ha slowed down. Hyuna stuttered and moaned out loud in pleasure. That's right, seeing your cold also strong personality in this with a weak expression makes me feel even more active. Kuroka was growing restless and just like that she lifted her ass and felt Issei's tongue slip out. She quickly began pleading for Issei to give her his attention. Please put it in Issei. Kuroka lifted it even higher as Issei touched her. Here I go, Issei said as he pulled out of Hyuna and started going down on Kuroka hard. Meanwhile, in the bathroom with the other girls. Do you hear that? Ria said nervously and exited. Akeno looked at Riaz and said, they're having fun. Fufu Kaneko bluntly looked at them and told them to calm their tits down. None of you are even going to sleep in the same hallway as him, so don't get any ideas. Kaneko was embarrassed and tried to come up with a conversation to distract them. Riaz. Are things this lively in the house usually? Kaneko. Sorta, I don't know very much, I spend a lot of time with y'all. Riaz. I think you should spend more time with them than us, they are family after all. Akeno. That's true, please be considerate of those around you, they probably want to spend more time with you and stuff. Kaneko. I know that, I want to get stronger, I don't want to be a burden to him. Rias. You don't seem to be a burden to anyone, actually it's quite the opposite, you play a big role in those three's lives. Akeno. Rias, you sound old, but it's true. Rias. Who are you calling old? Akeno. Well of course you my dear Rias. Kaneko. Great, the two cows are fighting now. Rias. Akeno. Shut it surfboard. Kaneko. Back with the three in the naughty act. After 6 minutes of non-stop hard pounding into Kuroka, Issei lifted her while turning her around. Standing suspended, Kuroka locked her legs around Issei and began to shake her hips alongside the rhythm of Issei's thrusts. This went on for almost 15 minutes until he noticed Hyuna desperately touching herself and calling Issei's name repeatedly. Issei increased the thrust power and speed. 2 minutes later Issei, I am coming. Kuroka was very loud and nearing her climax, then let's come together. Issei and Kuroka both climaxed at the same time. You poured a load inside me. Kuroka needed a little rest and in this time Issei turned his attention to Hyuna. Issei looked Hyuna in the eyes and said, your turn. Issei slowly inserted it in her again, this time in the missionary position. Both of them went wild. After a good 33 minutes, Hyuna had climaxed 4 times as to where Issei did not climax once, that was about to change though. Hyuna, I'm going to Kquime, and so am I, both were going to Kquime, but just at the last moment Issei pulled out and Hyuna climaxed. Phew, there's no knowing how your body would take in my seeds, so please bear with me Hyuna, Issei said after he had finished his load on her chest. That's fine, I feel so good, please give me more. Hyuna was very far into the grasp of pleasure, and Issei noticed that. As his biggest obstacle in bed Kuroka, he looked over and Kuroka was ready for another round a long time ago. Come here you, Kuroka said in a very seductive tone. Next morning. On a what? With who? Next morning Issei. Issei slowly opened his eyes and rubbed them. Yay. Everything fine Hyuna? Hyuna looked down in embarrassment asking Issei, how was it? Issei was confused and just woken, so it took him a minute to understand what she was asking about. Ooh, you're bothered by that. Hyuna nodded as to what Issei just asked. Well, if I told you truth, I'd say came up to her ear. I'm crazy addicted to you. Hyuna became bright pink after hearing Issei say that. Hyuna was going to ask him if he wanted to do it again, but Kuroka woke up and asked, what's for breakfast today, hun? Issei. I'm not sure, what do you want to eat this morning? Kuroka. Not sure, what do you think Hyuna? Hyuna. You I think chicken would be lovely. Issei. Kuroka. Issei. So pancakes and a few other things. Kuroka. I haven't had pancakes in a hot minute. Issei stood up and was about to walk out of the room until Kuroka threw his underwear at him. You should definitely put these on, remember? Issei was tried to think properly. Yay, I almost forgot we have guests. Issei went to the shower and obviously showered, he put his clothing on and to the kitchen he went. After 20 minutes, the house was filled with the sweet delicious aroma of the breakfast. Soon after the rest of the girls came out, Kuroka, Hyuna, Kaneko and both Rias and Akeno. It looks so tasty, can't wait to dig in, Kuroka said impatiently, as to where Issei softly slapped her hand saying, pass out the silverware first. Kuroka didn't argue or question him and just did it, and after she did so, she was the first one to start eating. Oh my, that does look good, I'm sure it tastes amazing. Rias said and looked at Akeno who was about to pick up the fork. This indeed looks delicious, I can't wait to try. Akeno took a single bite of the pancake and began to eat the rest quickly. It's much better than delicious, Akeno said as she moved into the eggs and bacon. Rias too enjoyed the breakfast as much as Akeno. Don't get used to it, this should be the last time you get it, said Kaneko who was a little bit wary. Kuroka slightly looked over at Kaneko and said, well I don't mind sharing Issei. She said this in a teasing manner, I mean after all, you're hardly ever here, so it really wouldn't matter right? Kuroka hit one of Kaneko's nerves and both began to argue at the dinner table. Issei, Rias and Akeno began to talk, please forgive their sisterly love. Issei was a little apologetic, but Rias didn't mind it at all. No, I understand that feeling more than ever Surziches, it's quite lively here, it's rather enjoyable too. Rias went on to say things how she likes it here and wouldn't mind spending another night if allowed to. Rias, I think you just want to stay another night. Akeno hit dead center behind Rias' words. All three continued to talk all while Kuroka and Kaneko had a little skirmish. Rias. Tell me Issei, do you want to go on the Kyoto trip? Issei. Why yay, isn't that 2 months from now? Rias. Yes, it's a fun experience, but don't let your guard down, Yakai's inhabit the areas there. Oh what am I saying, they wouldn't be able to do anything to you. Akeno. I heard their leader Yusaka is very skilled in senjutsu, she's potentially almost as strong as Surziches too. Issei. Well, I can't do anything about that, I'm just there for a trip. Issei, Rias and Akeno kept talking about all sorts of things and later on they were joined by Kuroka and Kaneko. Issei, have you ever been interested in senjutsu? Asked Riaz. Issei sipped his tea and responded fairly quick on his end. I've practiced quite a bit every now and then, though I haven't yet mastered it. Sure, I'm interested. Issei was rather wary about the trip and was going because Kaneko made a friend Asia who they saved from some fallen angels. They managed to escape through some miracle. Issei was pretty busy that day and had left to go somewhere on his own. Issei didn't tell anyone where he was going, but it is noticeable he was wearing nice clothing, almost as if he was headed on a date. Issei left the house around 9:23 am. He walked and kept walking till he arrived at the spot he was going to 11 am. Sorry, am I late? Said a familiar voice behind Issei. Yay, 10 minutes late. 11:10 am. It's no big deal though. Did you have trouble getting here? Asked Issei with a smile. Well, yes, I'm quite busy all the time, so getting here without attention was rather quite the challenge. Issei chuckled to himself thinking about what she just said, and to think you took some time off to talk with me. Issei had a faint smile on his face as he said this. Issei looked at the sky and remarked on how beautiful it was that day. Well, should we get going, Grafia? Issei offered his hand to her with yet again another smile. Grafia gladly accepted this kind gesture. Well, of course, do you want to go to the cafe that opened up last week? Grafia had wanted to go, but not alone, and Issei didn't have time to go to it and was actually looking forward to it, so he of course accepted super fast. From afar, what's he doing? And why's Grafia dressed like that, wondered two girls, wondered while the other three weren't exactly knowing how to act. Kuroka, Kaneko, Hyuna, Akeno. Could it be that they're on a date? Oh, that's super cute. I'm glad for Grafia. Riaz. What? No. Grafia's like a sister to me. She can't go out with the boy I like and stuff. Kuroka. Aha, so you do like Issei. He should have said so from the start. Riaz. So, Akeno does too. Akeno. My, that's so very true, though I understand this side of Issei. He's a man, his masculinity's showing. I think that's wonderful, and remember, Grafia isn't family. She and Surzich's only agreed to keep the marriage for the peace it'll bring with the old and new factions. Kaneko. The hell, the both of you aren't allowed to like him. Kuroka. Akeno. Riaz. Why's that? Kaneko. You too, Kuroka, you should be on my side. What's about you, Hyuna? Hyuna? I'm not sure and I don't really care all too much. Kaneko sighed in defeat as she was overwhelmed by girls. Something all the girls had failed to realize is that Issei and Grafia were long gone. Kaneko. This ain't good, we should find those two quickly. Grafia's date. Kaneko. This isn't good, we need to find those two. Meanwhile, with those two, Issei knew they were watching him the moment their eyes laid on his body. Honestly, they can't give me some space, Issei told himself in his head as he kept walking with Grafia towards the new sweet shop cafe. Around 13 minutes passed. During this time Issei talked to Grafia about things he's always wanted to try, and so did she. Both were quite chill, and once they arrived at the new cafe, Issei was rather surprised to see the old man he'd come to know as the owner of the clothing shop. Oh, Issei, how was the clothing you bought the other day? The old man said, happy to see him doing well. They were splendid, but may I ask if you own this new place? Issei asked confused. The old man replied fairly quickly, well yes, but leave that for another time. I see you're rather busy with a beautiful young lady. He getting around that time, I see. Please have a seat. The old man brought them to a small table for two people and personally tended to them himself. I'd like to have cannoli, a raspberry cheesecake, and a few heart-shaped oatmeal cookies. Issei looked at Grafia and asked her what she wanted and to not hold back. I've never had a cannoli, I'd love to try some, and may I have a small strawberry cupcake? Issei smiled and the old man took his leave to tend to the two special guests. The old man later returned with the orders and two drinks that were on the house. The both of you didn't order any drinks, so I brought some. The old man had brought 2 cups of water for the talkative two, and after that, he left to care for other customers. Issei was rather nervous for some reason though. Wow, it's kinda hot outside, isn't it? Yes, it is rather hot outside today. Yesterday was kinda hot as well, but please let's get to the main topic at hand, shall we? Issei took a deep breath and exhaled. Okay, I'm ready, so it's about that, right? Issei asked in a normal tone. Grafia answered calmly and collectively like high-class women with manners. Yes, it's about the situation with, but there's something else I wanted to talk to you about as well. Grafia reached out for the cup of water and took a sip after saying these words that interested Issei very much. Ooh? Issei was about to ask what it was that she wanted to say. Grafia took this opportunity to request something from Issei after seeing how drawn in he was. Does Surzich's know about this? Issei asked calmly. No, he doesn't. I'm acting of my own will, so don't worry, no one else knows either. Grafia smiled and put the cup down. At the same time as she put the cup down, the old man arrived with the sweets. Well, here's your sweets, and should you need anything, please call me over with it. The old man left, leaving the both of them alone once again. Hey, so suppose, no one knows, you want something back in return for that information, right? The mood was intense, but each other knew of the other's intentions. Of course, it's only fair to do something for it, also you catch on pretty quickly, it's an admirable trait. Both Grafia and Issei stared at each other intensely, so much so that the air around them was still. Things had seemed bad for a minute until Issei and Grafia both started chuckling to themselves. Well, it's always fun, having these types of interactions with you, Grafia, likewise Issei. First-person dialogue, Issei. Well, what is it you want me to do, Grafia? Grafia. Go on an official date with me? Issei. PFFFFFTTT what? Grafia. Did I say it incorrectly? Let me say it again, will you go out on a date with me? Issei. Well, I'm now thinking okay, your intentions for this. Grafia. I have no harmful or double-sided intentions, blushing, you know I'm a girl too. In his head, Issei. Gosh, that's so cute the way she said, you know I'm a girl too. Normal now, Issei. I'll take you on a date then, Grafia. Grafia. Thank you, now let's get to what you might want to hear, someone's interested in you, the name of this individual is after a while, now that we're done with that, onto Ria's subject. Issei. That was a lot of information, I'll be wary of that individual, thank you for the heads up, anyways onto Ria's. Grafia. Ria's stayed at your house, right? Issei. Yes. Grafia. Well, the Gremory and Phoenix households are aware of it, the Phoenix household is suspicious of you and your relationship with Ria's. Issei. Oh dear, is there any way I can avoid this altercation? Grafia. There isn't. Grafia. No, there isn't, she's your friend, right? If so, would you mind helping her escape the engagement? And Serzich's offer still stands. A while ago he asked Issei for help with that. Issei. If I'm already drawn into this, then I'll help her, but I want this to remain secret until the time comes, just you and me are aware of this, okay? Grafia. Chuckles, yes, just between the both of us, it's getting rather late, we should eat these up and move on to the next place. Issei. Alrighty, let's dig in. 1 hour later, Grafia and Issei had finished eating and chatting, mostly small talk. Alright, that was amazing, oh Grafia, wanna go to this place I like to go to? Issei had stars in his eyes, well, of course, I'd be delighted to. Grafia smiled and walked alongside Issei till they arrived at the destination. Grafia took one look and said something out loud, a bar. Yup, one of the best in all of Japan, they serve all kinds of things like food, and they even rent out karaoke rooms, and a bunch of other things. The young pervert said, with this Issei suggested they go in and have a drink, Grafia accepted, and nothing more than them having a couple of drinks happened. Shortly after this, Issei became a little drunk, he actually became really drunk. Grafia, on the other hand, was a little tipsy, she decided to take Issei home. He was way out of it and not capable of taking himself home. Aftershock, so sudden. After Grafia had taken Issei back home, she started feeling drowsy, little by little she walked into many rooms in search of Issei's room, by the time she had already reached the room, the alcohol's weight was quite heavy on her. After she gently placed Issei down on the bed, she closed her eyes to concentrate on the feeling of the bed. She took a few more seconds than expected to open her eyes, but when she did, she was way too tired to even want to walk around, feeling tired and drowsy. In her sleep, Grafia moved a little to the left where Issei was. She later hugged whatever she had bumped into and wouldn't let go. Next morning, Issei felt a poke on his forehead, he slowly opened his eyes, and there she was. Kuroka, and her mischievous grin, did you do it with her? She asked playfully, what are you talking about? Issei asked as to where Kuroka sighed, so you got overwhelmingly drunk again, maybe? Issei said, still very confused as to what she was asking her, saying, idiot, Grafia's holding on to you and wouldn't let go all night, it's honestly kinda cute. Issei looked at his chest and became flustered almost instantly. What, I slept with her? No, I mean I wouldn't mind but I don't remember it. Issei was so panicked, and he could tell Kuroka wasn't fazed by it at all. She had other things in mind, more serious things in mind. Issei quickly escaped Grafia's grasp. Kuroka took a picture of them asleep. Hey Kuroka, does anyone else know about Grafia being here? Kuroka said, no, faster than Issei could say or ask anything else. Kuroka looked happy yet so worried at the same time, also playful as always. Is something the matter, Kuroka? Do you feel okay? Kuroka placed a finger over her lip and made the shhhhhhh sound. Issei, I'm honestly a little scared to bring it up, I've still decided to tell you now better than later. Kuroka took a deep breath in and let it out, she gave off a serious expression. Issei, I'm pregnant. After hearing these words, Issei tensed up and woke up all the way in the matter of a few seconds. He pregnant? I'm going to be a father? Issei looked down at the floor, he didn't say anything for a few seconds. Kuroka was a little worried and asked, are you mad? Issei looked at Kuroka for a moment, then her belly. No, no of course not, I've just wanted to make a family for so long, but not so early, well let's go buy everything we need. Kuroka had used senjutsu when she asked the question, she knew Issei was overwhelmingly happy she could feel it, it's just that he was caught off guard and surprised, he didn't know how to act, but as Issei got ready alongside Kuroka, he wrote a note and left it for Grafia. Issei and Kuroka were off to the stores. A few hours later, after a few hours had passed by, Kuroka and Issei had gotten everything they needed. Issei was super anxious and delighted all at the same time, Kuroka on the other hand was excited and a little scared, overall she was happy to be a soon mother. In front of the door, a noise was heard, this noise happens to belong to Kaneko, who was talking loudly due to Ria's and Akeno's teasing, Grafia's voice was also heard within the living room. Before opening the door, Issei hesitated to open it because they were holding lots of baby supplies. Everyone would see, so to avoid it he was thinking of different ways to get in without anyone seeing. Issei could get in easily, but Kuroka opened the door far too fast for him to act. Hey plus U equals hey Issei froze up as the door opened and everyone inside went silent. Seeing the things they carried, many of them asked themselves why they brought such things over. Hey, guess what everyone, the girl, the Nico, the Issei Virgin Slayer has arrived and has news for all of you. Kuroka closed her eyes and said proudly, I'm pregnant. Hearing these words coming out of Kuroka's mouth, Kaneko closed her eyes angered and began to speak. But before Kaneko spoke, Akeno spoke out congratulations on the pregnancy. Akeno cheered for them and looked genuinely happy, but this still didn't deter her from saying the next few words, I'll have Issei's children next to Fufu. When Akeno said this, both Rias and Kaneko went after her. Akeno gave Issei a wink, and he knew what she had done on purpose, she had made things a lot less tense. Looks like I owe her one, Issei thought as he sighed in relief. Even though there was far less tension in the air, things were still a little nerve-wracking. Wow, pregnant, said Rias as she nervously laughed. Kuroka, is this some kind of a joke? Kaneko said loudly trying to make sense of the situation, nope, not a joke, I'm pregnant. Kuroka was nonchalant about it, now that she told everyone she was pregnant. Kuroka and the girls babbled on about Lord of Things for a little while until Issei decided to go upstairs. When he went upstairs a girl followed close behind and unnoticed by any of the other girls. This girl was Grafia, she had been itching to ask Issei something. Issei looked behind himself and saw Grafia, both of them began to have a small chat very quickly after connecting gazes. Issei, so you're going to be a father, I'm delighted by the news, though I now worried you won't know exactly what to do or how to take care of a child, may I help? Issei thought about it for a second and everything she had said was very true. Kuroka and Issei were both very inexperienced, they would definitely have a hard time taking care of the child. I can fight, take out a whole army of demons and other monsters, beings etc. But this might be something too hard for me and Kuroka alone, and we're so young too. Issei thought to himself right before accepting Grafia's proposal. I'm not pressuring you or anything, I'm just offering my services, that's all. Grafia smiled and turned around to go back downstairs, but Issei abruptly called out to her, Grafia, I'll accept, I think it's a fine proposal, and a good thing for me and Kuroka. Thank you. Issei lowered his head in respects to Grafia. No need to be so formal or thankful, and I'm glad to help, so I'll be coming over 4 times a full 7-day week, that's a deal. I'll inform Surziches about my absence in the near future. Farewell Issei, and good night. Grafia's left, and Issei felt lucky to be having it so easy when it came to Kuroka being pregnant and Grafia offering aid to them. Chapter 30. After all these different things were sorted out, Issei went off to sleep. When he'd awoken, Kuroka was snuggled up to him asleep. Geez, she's so adorable and cute, glad she's sleeping, but damn it's late. I suppose I could sleep a little longer. Issei then went back to sleep as he didn't want to wake Kuroka up since she looked really comfortable. 2 hours later Issei felt a violent shake that woke him up instantly. What's wrong? Issei asked out, still drowsy. You're late. You're late to school, Kuroka said worriedly. Oh love, don't worry about that, I don't really care about that stuff. Yawns, after all, I really don't need to go to school. Issei yawned once again and looked at Kuroka who had a blank expression on her face. On a second thought, I think I should get to class, Issei said as he stood and began to put on his pants and shirt. About 10 minutes later Issei was done and eating a toast as he closed the door behind him. Leaving home Issei was thinking of many things, and one such thing being Ria's engagement that Grafia and Surziches wanted him to break. The problem is the amount of attention is received, Issei thought until he got the idea of using a mask and concealing his magic. Wait, that'd make me seem like someone who's there for more than just breaking an engagement. Issei left it there as he'd known he could beat everyone there. When Issei arrived at school he had forgotten that today was the day the parents would be able to come to school to watch their kids' progress in class. Great, they're going to be here, Issei said to himself in disgust as he entered the class. Issei has to put up with a lot of things, and for him, it had been easy since Issei only had a single class with Kquime, and because Issei's class with her only came around for the last class of the day. He'd been completely fine, he'd get some compliments from other parents and stuff, and he'd hear the occasional "I'll look at him, he's attractive" from parents to their daughters, but Issei's last class had begun, and he'd arrived before everyone else. Issei took his seat and began to study the subject at hand. When the other students had arrived with their parents, Issei never glanced at them, but then came a loudmouth red-haired guy who directly came to Issei and gave him the rough bro hug. "Oh, I'm sitting here, you trying to snap my neck or something?" Issei said to Surziches. "Well, of course not, just happy to see ya, you should drop on by sometime, it's always a pleasure to have you around," Surziches said with a smile. With that, the rest of the students and parents came into the class, and of course, this also meant Rias, Akeno and Kaneko, Kiba and many other students were present. When Issei had seen a pair of parents, he gave a brief look of hate and disgust. It wasn't even a full 2 seconds he had this facial reaction. Rias had seen it and called out to him, therefore, snapping him out of the reaction. "Oh hey Rias," Issei said in a nice tone. "Oh nothing, just wondering how things have been for you all day," Rias said with an even brighter smile than Surziches. When Surziches had seen the way Issei talked to Rias and him, he didn't even need to compare it to see the difference in preferences. "Hey, talk to me like that," Surziches said out of jealousy of Rias. Rias, hearing that loud burst, was embarrassed and annoyed by it. "Hey bye brother, lower your voice, we're going to get all the attention at this point," Rias said with a nervous expression. Surziches just looked at her and said, "We're already the main center of attention." While Rias and Surziches argued, Issei kept studying until the teacher said they would be making sculptures. 12 minutes later, Issei didn't think too hard about it and made something plain and not well detailed at all, so he made a sculpture of Surziches not plain at all. The whole class was impressed, and even a few mothers wanted to buy it, but the overjoyed Surziches was gifted it by Issei. "See, he cares about me more for the boys, right?" Surziches said in a thankful and overjoyed way. For a few minutes, things continued to go that way, but Kquime had came up to him to praise him and such things. "Wow Issei, it looks pretty good, have you sculpted before?" Kquime asked, wondering if he's done things of this nature before. "Actually no, I haven't done things like this before, and thank you for the compliment, yours is quite the pretty star," Issei said calmly. Kquime was surprised as she didn't think Issei was paying attention to her at all. "Oh, it's nothing at all, yours is so much better," and she had been taken aback so much so that she was looking for words and kept losing them. Just as Issei let a small chuckle out, Mickey and Goru had walked over to his desk. Issei gave them a cold look as they spoke out. "Wow son, you did amazing," said Goru, who was followed closely by Miku. "Yes, our son is the best." Issei looked at them, not saying anything until he stood up. "You don't get to call me that, starts to whisper to me, you aren't even related to me," Issei said as he left the room. Kaneko was seeing this and she was very upset, but quite mad. If Rias had left the room, Kaneko might do something, so she stayed, and Surziches stayed to look after his sister. When Surziches turned around to speak to Grafia, he'd seen that she was gone. Now where did she go? Grafia had walked out of the room the moment Mickey and Goru had walked over to his desk. She knew what was going to happen, so when Issei turned the corner of the hallway, his gaze met hers. "You're upset, come with me," Grafia said abruptly. While both Issei and Grafia walked to who knows where, Grafia was quiet and so was Issei. Back in the classroom, "Kquime? Why did you even talk to him?" "Mickey? He's our son too, we have the right to talk to him." "Goru? Yes, so can see he grew up roughly, but still that's in the past." "Kquime? Are both of you idiots? You abandoned him and forced me to go with y'all. I wanted to stay. Do you have any idea how hard it is for me to even talk with him?" "He's right, you don't get to call him son, let alone his name." "Mickey? Young lady, respect your parents," tries to slap her. Kquime caught the slap and left the room, trying to follow Issei. Back with Issei and Grafia, both of them continued to walk until she stopped in a very isolated part of campus. "Do you want to vent your problems away?" "I'll lend an ear," Grafia said. Issei sighed and began to vent out his dislike for his parents. After hearing everything Issei had to say, Grafia said a few things that calmed Issei down, and she then said, "Well, I have to get going. I've been gone for too long now, see you later," Grafia said as she came close to Issei and gave him a kiss. "That was my first kiss," Grafia said as she put her finger over Issei's lip in a shhh manner. Issei was taken aback and surprised. Grafia left a dazed Issei very confused and happy. After a few minutes of being dazed out, Issei decided to head home earlier than the rest. The school wasn't even done yet. He left. An hour later, "I'm home Kuroka," Issei yelled as he opened the door. When he came into the living room, he saw Kuroka was asleep on the couch with the TV playing in the background. "Geez, she's so adorable even while sleeping." Setting off again. Once Issei had seen his beloved Kuroka asleep on the couch, he went upstairs to shower, and once he did, he came back downstairs and noticed something was off. His vision was being clouded with a seemingly invisible fog, one he could only see or be affected by. After a few seconds, the system notified Issei of some presence and viewed its stats. Race. Rank. Unseen King. Level max. Health. Stamina. Strength. Speed. Endurance. Defense. Magic power. Skills ability. Unseen King will be named Unseen for the purpose of dialogue. So you're the one who was triumphant in the end, the Unseen said in a low voice. Issei couldn't see it anywhere, and it sounded like its voice was coming from all over the place. Where are you? Issei demanded in a serious mood. Young boy, what you seek is power, but at what cost? Will you lose everything in the pursuit of this power? The Unseen said, completely ignoring Issei's demands. It then began to speak once again. Come to the lost world, complete my trials, and obtain power much greater than you have now, obtain information on your final adversary. After saying that, the fog dispersed without a trace, and Issei was extremely confused as to how it appeared out of nowhere and left like it was never there. Well, will you go? The system asked Issei, almost knowing the answer. I just got back recently, and it looks like the event is soon to end. I think I'll stay here, Issei said. The system responded to Issei, and risk the lives of those closest to you. Issei thought long and hard about these words, and coming to the conclusion he was about to respond to the system, but Kuroka had pounced on him. Hi, you should have woken me up, Mini, Kuroka said teasingly. So what if I told you I didn't wake you up because you captivated my heart even in your sleep? As Issei said this, Kuroka broke character for a moment and blushed remotely hard. Sometimes when I tease you, it backfires. So what you up to? Asked Kuroka curiously. Issei looked into her eyes and struggled to find the correct words to use, but Kuroka was no fool, and she'd already seen it in his glare. You're going again? Kuroka asked in a playful Da's voice. Issei smiled warmly towards her and told her a few things. Yes, I have to go, and I really wish I could stay, but I'm afraid if I don't get stronger, I'll be caught lacking and receive the consequences for it. Kuroka looked at Issei as he said this and simply hugged him. Please don't get hurt and promise me you'll be back, Kuroka asked as her grip around Issei got stronger. Issei looked down at her and brought his face close to hers. Kissing her, both got emotional and began to undress and go at it in the living room. After about an hour and a half, the door leading into the house was opened. The opener of the door was none other than Grafia and Riaz, who walked into Issei and Kuroka doing the deed. Issei quickly looked over to his side, seeing Riaz and Grafia standing there in awe as they saw Issei going down on Kuroka ruthlessly. Issei didn't stop as they'd already seen him in the act by this point. Grafia sighed and said loudly, if she had the baby developed inside her, I wouldn't let you touch her, but since it's this early into the pregnancy, I guess it's fine, Grafia said as she closed the door behind them and walked upstairs holding a pack of diapers and stuffed bears. Riaz was shocked, embarrassed, and wasn't sure how to react in this situation. She was quite honestly jealous but nervous, so she too followed closely behind Grafia. An hour later, after Issei and Kuroka had finished, they took a quick shower and joined Grafia and Riaz. So what's up? Issei asked both girls who walked into his home. Well, we came with gifts to surprise you too, but we ended up surprised, Riaz said, trying to get the image of Issei doing it with Kuroka out of her head for the time being. Grafia then began to speak. Honestly, Issei, you have to grow more aggressive. I served myself to you on a silver platter, and you've yet to do anything with me. She looked at Kuroka and smiled, trying to get approval. Kuroka isn't very possessive and only really cares about being with Issei. The thing is, she wishes to remain in first place, which she's quite positive she's able to keep. Kuroka nodded in approval as she was soon not going to be able to do these things for a while, and knew Kaneko would probably not be able to handle Issei's thirst, even with Hyuna's help. But Kuroka said, you aren't going to have sex immediately, get to know each other better, even if you two already know each other well. Kuroka smiled and hugged Issei, squirming like a child who wants to be pampered non-stop. They were sitting in the same living room. They did it and Issei hugged her for a few seconds and then stopped. He looked at Grafia and asked her to take care of Kuroka for him. Issei stood up and began to walk towards the front door. But just before he left, he looked back at Grafia and said, also I should be back in time to save our dear little red-head princess, looking at Riaz, so keep her out of trouble as well. Also another thing, I've instructed Hyuna via telepathy to guard Kuroka. With that, Issei left through the door after giving Riaz a smile. An hour later, Issei was wandering through the quest areas, but unknowingly he wasn't even close to where he needed to be. It really doesn't help to be in whatever this terrain is. The system responded to Issei by saying, this is a super legendary area. Why, you ask? Well, that's because you're such an idiot and do not know what a dark forest is. The system then stopped talking after Issei started yelling at it. Many branches break. Issei tensed up and tried to sense if anything was near. That's odd. I can't, nothing's around. Fog starting to kick in as well, Issei said as he still had his guard up. When it came to it, Issei just moved on and continued to walk north until he reached some ruins. When Issei got closer to the ruins, he saw some unreadable writing on some of the stone pillars. Once he tried to touch it, he heard something like a whistle ripping through the air. Issei jumped backwards and rotated himself to see the surroundings. In the corner of his eye, he'd seen a black arrow dashing through the area he was originally at. When Issei traced its origins, he'd seen a dark elf on the trees. That's also when the system warned Issei that his senses, not the physical senses, had been disrupted and we're not working the right way. Issei looked into the stats of the dark elf and it's as shown. Race. Dark elf. Rank. Scout. Level max. Health. 800k, 800k. Stamina. Strength. Speed. Endurance. 900k. Defense. 700k. Magic power. 1.0 m. Skills ability. Hunt 10x arrow accuracy, black smoke, aura enhancement, dark nectar. If it's just a scout, then the main group is gonna be a pain in the ass, Issei said as he pulled out Excalibur rapidly. Manhunter Elf Hunt. P1. After pulling out Excalibur rapidly, Issei blocked a few incoming arrows with the blade of the sword, and just as he did that another dark elf came dashing out of the forest. Inspect, Issei demanded in his mind as the other elf dashed at him with giant sword in hand. Race. Dark elf. Rank. Scout guard. Level. Mad. Health. 1.1 m, 1.1 m. Stamina. Strength. 1 m. Speed. 360k. Endurance. 700k. Defense. 900k. Magic. 15k. Skills ability. Magic seeking eyes lets them see magic patterns and to see through them. They seem weak solo, but they don't attack alone, so let's see how this end up, Issei thought to himself as the giant bulk dark elf rushed at him. Too slow, Issei sighed, while dodging the repetitive attacks from the scout guard dark elf. Issei indented to see what its ability of magic seeking eyes could do, so he started using his magic, but enough to go unnoticed by anyone. When he formed a weak magic arrow and shot it very quickly, the scout guard reacted before the shot and blocked it with his sword. Issei, then curious, did it several times after that, but using different very weak forms of the attacks. So it can see magic completely, no matter the amount. I could use those, Issei sadistically smiled to himself as he thought further into those eyes' potential. Suddenly a few arrows came flying towards him, and Issei simply tilted his head, therefore completely avoiding the attack in general. But just as he did that, he formed a quick magic arrow and shot it so fast there was no reaction time for the scout elf. The elf fell off the tree, dead and on the ground. The elf guard took this chance to attack Issei from the side, and Issei caught the blade with his fingers. As soon as he did that, he activated the Sharingan, and with a creepy smile he looked at the elf guard. Well? Issei said. Issei had punched the guard's stomach area and absolutely caved in the armor, and seeing the guard cough lots of blood, it died instantly. System. New skill unlocked, bleed. Although they have lots of health, by using enhanced reaction, paralysis, quick strike, dig, iron defense and flame punch, it creates more or less vibrations throughout the full body of those hit by it. Issei was lost in thought as another dark elf rushed at him. It ruptures the internal organs and leaves this burn mark that in a natural process decreases healing by maybe 15%. If I maybe add flame effect, not only will it create a burn effect, but because of the ruptured organs, it'll give it a bleed effect. Issei was fascinated by the combination of skills and how effective they could be, but as he got to the climax of his thinking, he noticed a dark elf rushing him. Where'd this one come from? Issei asked as he caught its arm, which was holding a dagger. He then tried adding flame effect to the punch for this target. And just as the punch was about to hit, the dark elf twisted its arm and dodged by rotating. Oh. Issei was impressed and yelled stats upon saying this that he'd see into his stats. System. Race. Dark elf. Rank. Assassin. Level. Max. Health. 700k, 725k. Stamina. Strength. Speed. Endurance. 402k. Defense. 198k. Magic power. 807k. Skills abilities. Absolute dodge, dodges anything no matter what only once a week. Night slash, quick slash, hidden aura passive, smokescreen dark nectar. Its abilities seem weak, apart from that, and now that I have its friend's abilities, I'll try something. Dark nectar. As soon as Issei said that, the assassin dark elf was binded to nearby shadows. Seeing this, Issei smiled again as he raised his arm up with Excalibur rapidly on hand. Night. As he swung the sword down, he killed the dark elf instantly. My, I cut you in half. Maybe I should be more careful next time, Issei laughed out. After killing this dark elf, Issei used aura sense and enhanced senses both together. Doing this, he felt the presence of a bigger group of dark elves. Issei felt something off about the group, however. Was it stronger, or was it that there being so many made it seem stronger? He pondered for a moment. After thinking for a bit, Issei decided to go over and check it out, but he used a newly obtained skill, Hidden Aura. Once Issei had gotten within 40 feet of the group, he hid in some trees as he watched 6 dark elves looking for the scout party. I've seen those 3 types, but those other 3. Inspect, Issei said in his head. System. Race. Dark elf. Rank. Healer. Level. Max. Health 2.0 m, 2.0 m. Stamina. Strength. 0. Speed. Endurance. 1 m. Defense. 1 m. Magic power. 500k. Skills abilities. Healer passive makes heals 50% better. Enhanced healing. Cure. Poison resistance 20%. Dark healer heals better at night. That's a troublesome fellow, Issei told himself in his head. System. Race. Dark elf. Rank. Warrior. Level. Max. Health. 1.9m, 1.9m, stamina. 4m, strength, speed, endurance. 1.6m, defense. 890k, magic power. 0, skills abilities. Warrior's might, warrior's mayhem, reflect 2%. So they all have a certain stat unhidden or they just happen to be hidden. Issei was getting annoyed since he didn't know why he couldn't see all of the stats. System, race. Dark elf, rank. Team captain, level. Max, health. 7m, 7m, stamina. 7m, 7m, strength. 3m, speed. 2.7m, endurance. 1.4m, defense. 2.1m, magic power. 3m, skills abilities. Team buff 20%, opponent debuff 5%, leech 0.1%, enhanced damage, enhanced strength, telepathy, strategic planner IQ plus 50. Well, this'll be a pain in the ass, looks fun though, I'll pay him a visit. Issei grabbed onto the tree branch and decided to jump forward really fast. Within a second Issei aimed for the neck of one of the dark elves and cut it clean off. Well, hello there, Issei said as the group of dark elves got into formation and lunged out at him. Issei smiled as he commonly did and heard an insult from one of the elves. That was my wife. Hearing that, Issei was shocked. They can speak. It took him a second, but he countered really quickly. This is the warrior dark elf. Off in the middle of the formation the leader was casting something. The group buff. I'll have to get to him first, Issei told himself as he quickly rushed him while summoning the colossal spider for aid. The moment he did, however, he failed to realize that. Manhunter elf hunt. P2. The healer dark elf had silently positioned itself behind him during the moment where the warrior's attack was countered. Issei closed in on the warrior dark elf and the healer used a powerful healing spell that engulfed its fellow dark elves, restoring the dead elf's health and bringing it back to life. Issei's eyes widened, bringing back the dead. He noticed the wounded dark elf's wounds rapidly closing. He quickly pivoted and faced the healer, realizing the need to kill the healer first. With a determined expression, Issei channeled his magic, preparing for an attack to take down the healer before its healing powers could turn the tables completely. While this happened, the leader of the Dark Elf group had completed the casting of its group buff. The remaining Dark Elf members now seemed more coordinated, their attacks better synchronized and enhanced by the leader's tactical prowess. Issei could sense that the challenge had just escalated significantly and he needed to act swiftly. Issei unleashed his powerful attack towards the healer Dark Elf. He made a split-second decision. He activated his flame punch, channeling intense magic flames into his strike. The punch not only dealt a massive blow to the healer, but also ignited its robe, causing panic within the healer as he felt the fire on it. Seizing this opportunity, Issei leaped towards the leader, using his enhanced speed to close the gap quickly. The colossal spider, which had joined the fight, engaged a dark elf warrior, diverting its attention away from Issei. With a determined expression, Issei swung Excalibur rapidly, aiming to take down the leader before its strategic abilities could further buff the other elves. The sword and colossal spider kept fighting, and the power of each blow was by no means silent. Other teams could hear the fight through the forest, and as Issei engaged in a close-quarter combat with the leader of the Dark Elf group, Issei was able to formulate a plan in mind, and it worked overtime, trying to predict and counter the leader's moves while finding openings to gain the upper hand quickly before other arrived. The battle only lasted a few more minutes until Issei was able to catch the Dark Elf off guard and he quickly used Scattered Embers. That being primarily an AoE attack, it caught the leader in it and for a moment Issei was able to close the distance and swing his blade upwards in a diagonal motion. Slicing the leader's head clean, Issei's focus shifted towards the healer. "Now for you," Issei said as he dashed to the healer. He threw Excalibur like a kunai and stabbed right through the healer. Now explosive strike. Issei added the flame effect this time and it showed off. The attack crippled the healer and as the healer fell, Issei was about to finish the healer off, but then 4 Dark Elf teams arrived, followed by them 4 others and 2 after them. Eventually the trees were full of them. Issei, knowing any more hostility was going to get him killed, so he called off the colossal spider and backed off as he dematerial Excalibur rapidly. When Issei did this, a few healers from the other parties rushed to the side of the injured healer. They tried their best but seemed to be panicking. Issei could see the clear expression of pure hate from the Dark Elves by this point. "This isn't good. Is there a way out?" Issei asked the system. "No, the probability of escape is 1. The system responded. "Well, this is amazing, somehow we went from 0 to 1 and I might die here, unless..." Issei seemed wary but tried it. He dropped his guard and slowly walked towards the dying elf with his hands up. In Issei's mind, he was wondering what he could do to escape and dissolve the threat at the moment. "System, open up shop," Issei demanded, and the system did just that. System, shop. Weaponry, abilities, accessories. Abilities, Issei said in his head. System, shop. Combat, defensive, support, scouting. Support, he choose. System, shop. Ritual of rebirth. Tranquil springs. Whispering beacon. Guardian glint. Gentle mend. Aegis aura. System. This is as far into support you're allowed in. Issei looked at the screen and chose Ritual of Rebirth. This'll cost you 25 points. Your current amount of points is 850. The system asked Issei if he wanted to continue, and he chose to do so. 5 points per level. Wait, what level am I? System. Race. Human. Rank. Dark Champion. Level 170. Health. 1.9 m, 2.5 m. Stamina. Infinite. Strength. 3.0 m. Speed. 2.5 m. Endurance. 1.8 m. Defense. 2.1 m. Magic power. 5.93 m. Skills abilities. Fusion and archive of all his abilities and the free will to combine them at will. No wonder fighting that captain was rough, he was faster than me by quite a bit. My Sharingan saved my hide there, Issei wondered for a bit and realized he never used his Mangekyo. Damn, I still don't know the abilities of this eye all the way, Issei told himself as he confirmed the purchase of the skill. Every moment they couldn't heal that dark elf, they grew more hostile, and Issei, who had his hands up in the air and walking very slowly towards the dark elf, tried speaking to them. Hey, I know y'all can talk, I'm not sure if it's my language you all can't talk, but I can heal your comrade. After hearing that one of the captains present dropped from a tree, do you speak the truth, outsider? The elf was wary of approaching him but did so to a minimal extent. Yes, Issei replied. After the reply, the captain looked at the other elves administering healing magic and nodded. They backed off, and Issei got closer. Within a few seconds he got to the dark elf and asked the system to bring up the instructions of the ritual. The only two requirements are that your blood is spilled inside of the targeted revival subject after the blood is within a part of you which does not contain blood. Further note, the blood may not be exposed to air after it coming out of said spot. The second requirement is for them to truly want to live, the system described it bluntly. Alright, Issei summoned Excalibur rapidly, and the moment all the dark elves saw the sword and they were about to go for the kill, but stopped once they saw the blade pointing his own arm. Wait, it has to be in a spot within me with no blood, Issei wondered and sighed. He stabbed his arm and left the blade in it so his wound wouldn't heal immediately. After a second of taking a little amount of blood into his mouth, little less than a sip amount, Issei's closed the distance between his face and the healer's. Wearing a thick green and white mage hood, Issei couldn't tell the gender of the healer and was scared even while looking level-headed. Please be a girl, Issei pleaded in his head repeatedly. Issei removed the dark elf's mage robe and he was faced with a pretty dark elf girl. Thank goodness, he thought this as he laid his eyes on the girl. The elves were about to lose it because of what Issei had just done. Issei's lips touched this girl's lips. A few seconds after this happened, an option popped up, choose your subordinate's name. Issei wondered what this meant, and as he'd seen the girl he could tell that they were somehow linked now. What? System, what's going on? Questioning the system, Issei was being approached by the elves. They were still wary of him. The elf girl began to heal, and after seeing this, the elves did something unexpected to Issei, and that was Manhunter Elf Hunt P3 end. What the elves did was capture him and tie his arms together. Everything should be alright for now, Issei told himself as the elves took him to their campsite home. Before being taken there, the elf girl was taken in first. They seemed to bring her into a bigger tent. As for what the elves that were allowed in there, only females, Issei did not know. After arriving to the camp, Issei was tied up to a tree in a sitting position. He did not question them, however he thought of ways to escape. Fast forward a few hours, nighttime, Issei was currently watching the elves dance around a fire as they laughed and talked amongst another, since they had caught a big animal for food. Feeling like nothing was going to happen that night, Issei closed his eyes and rested his head against a tree, and after doing so, he sighed. I dodged a bullet there. They probably would have killed me if I didn't save that girl, Issei reminded himself as he remained with his eyes closed. Then he heard footsteps coming his way. They were gentle and soft. Slow and seemed to give off an unconfident feeling. The biggest reason to this was because he could hear short pauses in between some of the steps. It was the girl, and Issei could tell, that is was because they were now linked. Hi, it thought you might be hungry, so I brought you something. Hearing her say that, Issei opened his eyes and could see that she was trying to hand him a piece of meat. Thank you, but how will I eat if my arms are tied? He asked in a stone-cold expression as he once again closed his eyes. Issei's voice carried a tone of both frustration and resignation. He knew that maintaining a firm demeanor was crucial in this uncertain situation. He felt a mixture of gratitude towards the elf girl for her seemingly kind gesture and an underlying skepticism about her intentions. The elf girl hesitated for a moment, her delicate features reflecting uncertainty. I'm sorry about that. I didn't think about your situation. She fumbled with her words, clearly nervous. Issei glanced at her again, this time with a softer expression. He realized that she might not be as much of a threat as the others. It's okay, he said, his voice gentler. I appreciate the offer. But what's your name? The elf girl seemed surprised by his question, as if she didn't expect him to care about such details. "I'm Leora," she replied, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "And you are?" "Issei," he responded. "Look, Leora, can you help me get out of these ropes? I promise I won't cause any trouble." Leora hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was watching them. Then, she took out a small dagger hidden beneath her clothing and started working on the ropes binding Issei's arms. Her hands were surprisingly steady, and it became apparent that she was more skilled than he had initially thought. As the ropes fell, Issei flexed his arms. "Thanks, Leora," he said, genuinely grateful. "Now, can you tell me more about this place and why I was brought here?" Leora looked around once more before leaning in closer to whisper, "This is the Elven Forest, and you were brought here because you saved me. The others were afraid you might be a threat, but I believe you're different." Issei nodded, his curiosity piqued. "So, what happens next?" Leora's eyes darted to the dancing elves around the fire, and she leaned in even closer. "We need to find a way to get you out of here and maybe even help you return home. I overheard the chief, he wants you in the fire by tomorrow moonrise." Issei took the piece of meat and ate it, since she had brought it for him. "I'm headed out tonight, what'll you do?" Issei asked Leora, her face lit up with a smile, but it quickly shot down to a sad expression. "I can't go anywhere, and the reason why the elves care about me is because I'm supposed to bear the child of the chief's son 2 moons from now." Issei thought about it for a second and decided to ask her, "Do you want to?" Leora quickly said no and that she hates the chief and his son. "Well then, that settles it." Leora was confused and that's when Issei grabbed her hand, pulled her in close and picked her up. With that, Issei slouched her on his back, in a way her top half of her body would be facing anyone chasing Issei from the back and anyone in front of him would see her behind. Once Issei grabbed her like that, she let out a little surprised noise. Once this happened, Issei took one step and jumped forward onto the top of a tree. With Leora securely perched on his back, Issei moved through the trees, his agility and instincts training in forest swamps, serving him well in this unfamiliar environment. The night concealed their escape and they made their way deeper into the elven forest, away from the campsite and the impending threat of being thrown into the fire. Leora clung to Issei, her heart racing, both from the adrenaline of their escape and the proximity to this stranger who had intervened in her life so dramatically. As they moved farther away from the elven camp, she couldn't help but feel a sense of hope that she might have a chance at a different lifestyle, away from the oppressive expectations of the chief and his son. Issei continued to leap from tree to tree, his senses on high alert, constantly scanning the forest for any signs of pursuit. He knew they couldn't let their guard down, the elves might come after them once they discovered his escape. As the moonlight filtered through the canopy, casting an ethereal glow over the forest, Issei and Leora ventured deeper into the unknown, their fates now intertwined in this mysterious and enchanting forest of the elves. After around 5 minutes of escaping, Issei sensed that they were on the move and in hot pursuit and reaching this area where the forest had a big lake 30 minutes later. One so big that would force him to go around the lake. But after thinking about it, Issei remembered and he summoned the mega crocodile he killed alongside the colossal spider. Summoning it, Issei told Leora to get on its back and as he did, shooting out of the trees came a elf man. He looked no older than 24 and was definitely stronger than other elves. System, race. Dark elf, rank. Chief son, level. Max, health. 2.0m, 2.0m, stamina. 520k, 700k, strength. 2.5m, speed. 2.1m, endurance. 1.9m, defense. 1.1m, magic. 2.3m, skills ability. Magic Seeking Eyes, Hyper Stat Boost Passive, Night Buff 50% higher, Poison Arrow, Water Sprout, Ancestral Dissension, shoots an arrow into the sky and it turns into many magic arrows that shower the sky. Almost on my level, if not nearly matched, Issei thought as he conjured a magic arrow and shooting it off. Doing this the elf had to dodge it, therefore bringing him to changing his direction for a split moment. In this time Issei had activated Scattered Embers and managed to hit the elf. It didn't do too much, and it became apparent that this was a fast thinker. He used his ability called Water Sprout to get rid of the burn effect placed on him by the embers. "You'll have to try harder than that," the elf yelled at Issei, all while Issei managed to charge up his explosive punch and activated rage mode. This temporarily increased Issei's attack stats by 30% and decreased his defense stats by 40%. Issei now closing the distance and being faster, he managed to punch the elf square in the stomach. Receiving this hit, the dark elf coughed up some blood and could feel that he was internally bleeding and some of his organs had ruptured. Issei, who was now in the clear advantage, used magic arrow the moment the hit had landed and there went an arrow at the elf's thigh. After this the dark elf used poison arrow, followed by skill ancestral dissension. A single arrow was shot into the sky and then a moment later, the sky was being showered by magic arrows and with each of them holding a powerful heavy thud. It was noticeable that these arrows were really strong. Issei skillfully dodged the onslaught of arrows and got close enough to the Dark Elf and used explosive punch once again. The Dark Elf sustained heavy damage and that's when the rest of the Dark Elves arrived. There must have been hundreds and all were on the attack, not only that, but they were coordinated extremely well. But this wouldn't faze Issei since once he saw it. He took his opportunity to take many of the elves out all at once. Of the easily 300 strong elves, Issei took 12 down with a single attack, its name, Fire King's Death Arrow. This was a combination of Scattered Embers, Magic Arrow, Quick Strike, Magic Tracing, Death Venom, Senjutsu. This attack on top of Rage Mode activated took half of the elf's horsepower, but the effects of Fire and Death Venom shredded at their horsepower, killing them. After this, Issei would go on to use this about 7 more times, killing a total of 160-300 elves. And now left with 140 elves, Issei got into it with close combat. The attacks he launched were more or less his new favorite ability, Explosive Punch. About 20 minutes after they engaged into hand-to-hand combat, 2 elves remained as the chief's son lay dying receiving healing from one of the elves. Issei quickly killed the elf in front of him and then the healer, and looking at the chief's son, Issei muttered something, and that something was, "You know, I can tell Leora wants me, and you know, she's really cute, you know what? I'll tell you this, I'm going to breed her after things calm down, and you're dead." The chief's son gritted his teeth and screamed at Issei, "She was supposed to be my sex to why?" As he said this, his head landed on the ground. "And now you're dead." Issei smiled and didn't notice, but he had killed the whole dark elf population on the floor, apart from 2 elves. The chief and Leora, but something Issei was aware of was that the chief was sickly and nearly dead, bedridden and paralyzed. So in due time he would die too, so there wasn't any need for him to go back to kill him. After killing the chief's son, Issei caught up to the mega crocodile and washed his hand on the water as they slowly navigated the waters. "I've gained so many skills," Issei cheered in his head. But then he realized something, the passive ability Hyper Stat Boost. This ability had made Issei's stats go from this to this. System, race. Unclear, rank. Dark Champion, level 181. Teeth. 6M, 6M, stamina. Infinite, strength. 6.3M, speed. 5.7M, endurance. 5M, defense. 5M, magic power. 7M, skills abilities. Fusion, an archive of his abilities that allows him to merge or use separately. Issei wasn't sure what was going on, but it would take them most of the night to get to the other side of the lake, and once they did, both Issei and Leora had sat under a tree for her to gain energy or rest. As one could imagine, she fell asleep, and once she opened her eyes, it was daytime, and Issei, who was right in front of her, was blushing. "Morning, is something wrong?" she asked half asleep. Issei, looking at her, said that nothing was wrong, so she got embarrassed and slowly got up and then yawned. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.